All right, guys, we will just start in a minute, not even a minute, 10, 15 seconds. All right. And let's remove these things. So it's 8 o'clock and 1 minute. Right. So, hi, guys. Second episode or session of Project I. And today I'm with Harshit, my eldest son. And as I said, we'll be talking about a few things here today. And the very first one is about Harshit's journey. Okay, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about exercising in heat. We'll be talking about how to do it safely, and to get better results, not get hurt. The third thing is going to be about your Ladakh trip, how to do it safely, and then we'll be taking your questions and answers if there are any. All right. So Harshit, do you want to get started with your journey, fitness journey?
So, just a disclaimer, my journey is so big that I can write a lot of Netflix shows, series, all of that. So I'll try to keep it as brief as possible and try to limit it to the physical aspect and the mental aspect and just limiting it to running and strength training. So I was an asthmatic kid when I was 13-ish, 12-ish, and it was pretty severe to the point that a couple of times I had to be taken to the hospital. After that, I joined a boarding school in Missouri, which is in the Indian Himalayas, Weinberg Island School. And it was a struggle at first. And I won't lie, I was a troublemaker, but I faced some situations, I faced bullying. And even though I was a troublemaker, even though I was provocative, I don't think that anybody deserves what I had to go through or what other students, my other friends, had to go through at that time as a result of the bullying from the seniors. So anyway, that really killed my self confidence. But I guess that was the first time. I didn't know how to face this at the time, but this is when I realized that struggles either make or break character. So I could either use that as an excuse to just stay down, or I could use that as an excuse to become better. And I was insecure. I That killed my self confidence because I realized that speaking skills weren't that great, my physical skills weren't that great, and I wanted to be able to defend myself. I wanted to be able to present myself a certain way so that I wouldn't have to face a situation like that in the future. So that's when I started with my strength training: push-ups, squats, heel raises, three simple basic exercises. And right after that, a month later, I took part in the half marathon in the school. And before that, the only other competitive distance I'd run was 6 kilometers. So I went from 6 kilometers to a half marathon. And at that point, it wasn't about just humility or confidence. I was thinking about it the wrong way. I was thinking about how girls had signed up for it. And if girls have signed up for it, I should sign up for it too. Just that toxic masculinity mentality back then in boarding school. I signed up for it. I didn't get a great time. I got 2 hours, 30 minutes when I was 15 years old. But slowly, I realized that my strength training and my running helped me feel a lot better. It helped me feel calmer. And that's when I sort of started feeling a connection between the mind and the body. Now it was no longer about, oh, I want to look this way. Now it was about, I want to feel this way. It was actually making me feel a lot better. So after that, mm, I ran 21 kilometers in grade 12 again. And that's when I broke the 2 hour barrier. I did it in 1 hour, 50 minutes. So consistently, gradually, became better. And though I didn't leave school being the best runner, I was still top 10 by the time I graduated. And I picked it up again in college. And before that, actually, I ran La Ultra, but I don't consider that a big achievement because I wasn't very prepared for that. And that's a whole other story, which I'll come back to when we're talking about how to prepare for running in Ladakh. But running in college, that's when it got a lot more serious because it was a lot more consistent, it was a lot more competitive. And all of a sudden, I went from running 8 kilometers in 37 minutes to 8 kilometers in 32 minutes. Within 2 months, I had shaved off 5 minutes of my time for my 8 kilometer race, which was a pretty big deal for me. And a year after that is when COVID happened, and now all of a sudden I was alone in a house by myself for 6 months and not having anything else to do, being in the farms in Midwest America. What I chose to do was just run without any science, without any exercises or strength training or any of that, or any complicated training schedule. I would just go out, do whatever I felt like. Sometimes it would be like 3 or 4 days. I would just be going out very fast, like a tempo run, 3, 4 days in a row, which I wouldn't advise anybody to do that now. But back then, I was just doing whatever felt right, and I don't regret that. I did get injured. I did have to take rest for a little bit. I came back strong, but I think all those failures actually helped me realize how to become a better runner, how to become more patient. And now being there by myself for 6 months during the pandemic, that's when it was pretty scary in the start because I was the only person there. I had nobody else to talk to for the most part. So uh, that's when I started realizing a lot of things about myself. And that's when all the crazy talk started happening. And that's when I started questioning my own sanity. When basic questions like, who am I? Like, am I this person, Harshit Chauhan, or the many identities that many people have called me throughout my life, be it Johan, Chauhan, Harshit with a different spelling, many different things. So, questioning that fundamental thing of who am I actually helped me become a better runner, helped me become a better person. And what I realized was that the whole physical aspect with the running, working out, all of that really helped me on my philosophical journey, which then transformed into a spiritual journey, which again is pretty crazy, but it helped me realize, or at least helped me get closer to one of the many truths of who I am. And I think that's something we just as humans we don't think about that as much. We don't think about who we are. We are just we just pretend to be somebody. The identities that we have, our nationality, our name, our job, our profession, our age, whatever our gender, and that's who we are for the rest of our lives. And it keeps changing gradually, and we just keep adapting to it without really realizing who we are. So that whole spiritual journey, that whole philosophical journey, all those experiences where I felt some being a part of something bigger than myself, being connected to everybody, actually feeling pure ego dissolution or absolute formlessness. As crazy as all this sounds, running and physical fitness is what got me down this path. And it helps me realize that truth every day a little more.
Cool. Okay. Since there are no questions, I'll ask a question.
Okay.
You're coming out of this book. Now, how is that your whole physical journey? How has that helped you write?
Okay, so I've just for context, I've written a book. It's a religious or mythological science fiction book, and it should be out by the end of this month. I won't go into the plot. It's called Kali Yuga, Awakening of the Tenth. I won't discuss any of those concepts. I'll discuss the journey of running and writing. How running really helped me become a better writer, because running is a time, or it's a time when I'm just by myself and I'm just communicating with myself. I usually don't run with music or with my phone, looking down on my phone or all of that. I'm just surrounded by nature, or even if it's on a treadmill, I'm alone with my thoughts. So when that happens, I become a lot more reflective, and that's when it took me a few years. It took me 6 years after running when I actually started journaling. So it started with journaling just about the thoughts I had while running, but then it transformed into journaling just about anything and everything. And now it's to the point, even though I've been slacking off a little bit ever since I came back to India, but about 300 to 500 words every day. And while journaling or trying to talk to yourself is very important, at least with fiction or non-fiction, any of it, is that we are essentially writing for humans, and we are trying to understand other people, whether it's through non-fiction or fiction. And I believe that you can only be a good writer when you can understand humanity. And the first step to understanding humanity is to understand yourself, because there's different layers to yourself. For instance, there's the ego, there's the soul. When you break them down even further, there's anger, guilt, fear, there's love, there's compassion, there's different parts of you. And you communicate with those different parts every time you're writing and you're trying to talk to yourself, or those shadows, whatever terminology, whatever philosophical talk you want to use for this. Essentially, there are different aspects of you, and the better you understand yourself, your desires, your limitations, your passions, any of that, I think you can understand people better, humans better, and that can help you become a better non-fiction writer or a fiction writer. In terms of fiction right now, uh, an understanding of humanity as a whole from different perspectives is essential. So many different characters that I have in my book, they're essentially extensions of myself, but I have to switch up my personality in my head, think the way that they would think, and only then each character will have a unique voice. So that's an unconventional answer, but I feel like that, and I feel like anybody who's not tried this whole journaling stuff, it might feel like a bit of a stretch. Like, how can journaling help you become a better writer? This is one of the many perspectives. Yeah.
Super. Awesome. Okay, so talking about Ladakh, so one of the things I wanted to talk today was if you or your family members or colleagues are traveling to Ladakh, the problem is it's all great. It's very fashionable today. Go to Ladakh. Three Idiots made it very, very popular. Now Instagram's made it even probably more popular. The mistake that people make is they would go book a trip through Yatra, make my trip, all that, or will have only have 5 days, 6 days off, and they do things quickly. Now, since you're here, Harshit, what did you experience with other runners and other people coming and the sickness and the issues as a non-medic? What did you see out there?
Again, like, I'm a non-medic, I'm not a
Yes,
professional at
yes.
all, but what I can say is that it's very random. Of course, you have to take all those precautions, and it's better to be safe than sorry. But I've seen some people who have just landed 2 3 days later, they're running and they're absolutely fine, and that's okay, that can happen. There's some people who've never run before, they walk, they're running, they're flying. I've seen miracles like that as well, but I've also seen people who've been there for a while, who've run quite a bit and practiced a lot, and they still drop out of the race in 20 kilometers. It varies. There is no correct answer. It's very subjective, but it's still important to take precautions. It is still important to follow all those guidelines, because those guidelines don't ensure 100% safety, but they ensure some sort of protectiveness. And at least what I felt with myself is that whenever I go to Ladakh and whenever I spend a few days, I acclimatize. I guess that's the term. I acclimatize better to the environment there, and I'm able to run easier. I'm able to exercise easier. So basic tips like 2 days just resting. Don't rush a lot. Don't use cars a lot. That's just a personal preference. Just walking, experiencing the city. That's I think that's the true essence of Ladakh anyway. And different things like that. And just to clarify, just because the analogies I provided don't the analogies I provided aren't the norm. Like that doesn't usually happen. I'm just saying it can happen. Anything can happen essentially. Like, you could be an expert with mountains and high altitude and all of that, and you can still have high altitude sickness. You could be somebody who's never been there and you could still be doing pretty good. But that doesn't mean that you take those examples as inspiration. If anything, take those examples as caution, and just realize that even if some people who have a lot of experience can end up in hospitals in very serious conditions, that's actually a precaution, and that should be taken very, very seriously.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of summarize and with some medical angle to it. So basically, the problem is when you go to Ladakh directly, I mean, obviously, if you fly, go to Leh directly. The thing is, you're going from a zero, almost a 0 feet to 11,000 feet. That's for how high the Leh airport is. All right. So oxygen becomes an issue because there's less oxygen at that altitude, and you can easily get high altitude sickness. What high altitude sickness does is instead of going checking out Khardungla, you'll be checking out the inside of the very good hospital that's there in Ladakh, right? So that's an issue. It can cause issues with your kidneys and your brain, and things can go awfully wrong very quickly. Please, when you go to Ladakh, Harshit has said it in, as I would say, the non-medic way, but the whole point is acclimatize better. For first 2 days, don't be very active. See how you're feeling. There's a very good chance you'll feel better in some time. But again, to Harshit's point, going to Leh, it does not matter if you've been there 10 times before, you need to acclimatize each year. All right. It doesn't help. It doesn't help if whatever you've done before, you've been to Everest Base Camp, good for you. All right. Acclimatize again. Couple of days, don't rush. People talk about Dimox. I'm a firm believer in going natural way rather than depending on a Dimox. Acclimatize better, you'll do much better. If you're planning to go to Ladakh and if your trip is in like a month's time, start doing your fitness, start doing your walks, your strength training, and all that stuff. Right? When you go there, especially if you're going in, say, next 5, 10, 15 days, it's very cold. A family friend is there right now, and again, I'd advise them. Went shopping with them. They thought I'd got them to buy too many warm clothes. And when they went to Pangong and then crossed Changla, they needed to put on everything and more. Even the drivers, spare stuff. It was so cold. There was snow everywhere. So please, the trick with Ladakh is prepare more than you need to. So just in case there's a issue, you're already prepared for it. Okay. Sunglasses become very important because of the snow blindness and the radiation that's there at a higher level, right? So those are the things. Um, and drivers love their cars a lot, so don't bang their doors, and they drive like Formula One drivers. You have to tell them go slow. Okay, so well, I'll tell you the itinerary advised from my end if you want to be going to Ladakh. First 2 days, don't rush when you land there. Then start seeing locals, like the market, and go to the flat area, those monasteries and all that for first 3 days, 4 days. Fifth day is when you should be considering, fourth or the fifth, or later. You should be considering crossing Khardungla and getting to Nubra Valley. Stay in Nubra for a day or two, and you might want to go to Turtuk, the last civilian village. I mean, before the border comes along, and you can openly go there. So that's a good one, really good one to go to. And then again, the sand dunes and all that in Nubra. You might want to stay, as I said, in Nubra for a day or two. And from that side, you can actually go to Pangong, right? Pangong is at 15,000 feet. So you cross another pass, Changla, you get to Pangong. It depends actually which route you take. But it's a very high altitude you'll be sleeping at. So if you don't acclimatize well, you directly go there third day, fourth day, you'll be in trouble. Okay. So hence that. About Pangong and Somoruri, see, listen, Lake and Lake, I love both of them. Just that Somoruri is further off. So you need to kind of take that call. So don't rush, you acclimatize, do as much as you can. The hospital is very well equipped. If they know one thing to treat really well, it is high altitude sickness. I'm not saying they're not good at other things. High altitude sickness, they're amazing at because they see this day in, day out, 24/7, 12 months a year. Okay. Um, that's about it. Layering. Layering has become important. When you're wearing clothes, first comes your Vaseline, then comes the base layer, then comes your fleece, your down jacket, and your hard shell. Always cover your ears. In the same day, you can have ice burn and hot heat stroke or something like that, hot burn very easily in the same day. So please be careful. Don't expose your skin. Apply creams and all that stuff. All right. So that's a very, very quick one on Ladakh. Coming to exercise and heat, Harshit, it's totally fine. You can excuse yourself and go. All right. So because there are a couple of more things I want to talk. All right. So it's okay. Yeah. Thanks. All right. So just carrying on about heat. Yes. Okay, so feel free if you do have any questions, and I'll just talk to you about heat, exercising and heat, and all that stuff. So, what tends to happen with exercising in heat is when your temperature increases suddenly, which is not really the case right now in Delhi. It'll be in next week, 10 days, which usually does happen by now. The problem is when your core temperature is reaching 37 degrees. Okay, 37 is a critical temperature that we talk about. Okay, um, what happens at 37 is when you sweat, when you're hot, when you sweat, it evaporates. Okay, now what starts happening at a high temperature, say let's say 33, 34, 35 degrees, you are dripping. Okay, it is not evaporating. So it's a failure of the cooling system that actually sweating provides, right? Now that's failing at a very high temperature. Now what's happening, instead of blood going to your main vital organs, it's rushing to the skin, and we're in trouble because it's actually not focusing on the core, the vital organs that are there. Okay, so it's actually trying to cater to your sweating because it's trying to say, hey, listen, we are ineffective at sweating, so how can we kind of take care of it? It's failing, as I said. So when it starts failing, we are in trouble, and we need to take care of some very small, little, simple things. One is in hot temperatures when you're exercising. I've said this last time. I'll repeat it. It's very important. Um, have a cap. Number one. Second one, wear sunglasses, shades. Okay. Hey, Pankaj. We'll come to that. We'll come to your question in a minute. So, wear your sunglasses. What sunglasses do is eyes are the only extension of your brains that you can actually see. All right. Uh, so, basically, if we cool down that whole, the sunglasses just reduce the body temperature because that's how you feel because of the shades. So sunglasses are very, very effective. It's not only looking like a Tom Cruise or Salman Khan or whatever. They have a very functional role in running or outdoor activities in summers. So sunglasses become very important. Other thing is cold water. Okay, so putting water over your head, over your nape of the neck, your t-shirt if it's a little colder, ice vest and all that, they become very, very important to reduce the temperature. Okay, so these are just very quick tips that are there about running in heat. uh, High, when it is excessive heat, so when the heat stroke, extreme heat strokes, when they happen, they're the number one reason of outdoor activities of leading to death, right? We need to be very smart about it because things are all good to go wrong. So please be smart about it. Okay, and when you're running, don't ever drink in gallons. Not drinking first and then drinking in gallons, a big mistake. Take it in sips. Keep drinking in small sips repeatedly, right? And run in shades of tree. And yeah, that's about it. And Pankaj, coming to you. Confused between heart rate zones and feeling to enjoy a run. I try to do most runs in aerobic zone, 130 to 140. After some time, heart rate shoots to 150 plus, and I end up walking. Pankaj, okay, so I'm a firm believer of running according to how you feel and how your breathing is, more than the heart rate. Okay, heart rate is an indicator. I mean, it definitely is. But all these zones are different for all of us. Some of us can push ourselves more, can be comfortable at 150, 160. So that feel that you say is very important for me. Okay. Uh, just don't walk because a certain number says so, right? How do you feel at that number is a very important one. So please, I mean, all these formulas that are there, what is your aerobic and all that, I mean, kind of tricky. It's different for different people. It's just not a straightforward formula. Is it due to heat? Should I forget heart rate zone and keep till I enjoy and able to speak a sentence? Okay, I'll come to this one. And I'm 48, 29 BMI, 5 years into cycling, recently into running. Okay, cool. That helps me. So you're 48, which is like a totally fine age, not too old. Is it due to heat, what you ask about all this? Yes, as I was talking about the sweating, running in heat is making the pumping of the heart more inefficient. You're breathing heavy, all your blood is rushing to the skin, all right, the fluid. And what is actually happening is there's not enough getting back to the heart, kind of a thing, all right? So we are in this whole reduced volume kind of a thing situation that is actually there. And the heart is trying to see, hey, listen, how do I get more oxygen to the rest of the body? So the rate is increasing just by standing in heat. Forget about running, okay? So what we need to do is we need to make your heart rate pumping more, uh, how do I say, better, more efficient. So take long breaths in, hold it for a second or two, and breathe out. That's a good smart way of breathing, right? Don't do shallow breathing, which most people do when it's hot, when they're exerting too much, and slow down. All right. So slowing down is better than actually just saying, well, end up walking or sitting down. Okay. And your age, as I said, seriously, not an issue. If you've been at it for 5 years, very good. Cycling versus running. See, the thing is, all our fitness, so there's fitness, which is great across, so that base is very important. But at the same time, what's interesting about fitness is it's specific to the event or the activity as well. All right. So someone could be a great cyclist, get them to run and they can't run. All right. Get them to swim and they can't at all. So you have to get better at all three. Of course, there's some bit of fitness you carry on to whatever the activity. Like a runner would be a better footballer, for example, versus someone who's just a slob and then starts picking up football, right? So yeah, that helps. So yeah, those are the things about Harshit. I mean, why did I have him? Um, so idea was he was asthmatic before, and he could barely walk, run 200 meters, and then started doing physical activity because of boarding school, all that. And that's exactly the kind of person I'm trying to address to this whole YouTube live and all. I was saying you couldn't move and you had to start, but you'd been postponing it and you were finding excuses. You need to get started, all right? And it has to be baby steps. You'll evolve over a period of time. As you were saying, he started physically, yeah, doing the activity, and then the psychology bit started making sense with his own experiences. Besides him studying, that being his second major, and then the philosophy of the whole thing coming together. I mean, very philosophical, whatever he says and does. So point really is most of us are wanting to start the other way around. You want to be a better friend, and you want to meditate, but you can't meditate because when you ask someone to actually focus on themselves, somehow they don't know what that means. Okay. It's a very tricky situation. Running is meditation in motion. When you meditate, you focus, right? Same with running. It's left and a right and a left and a right. Okay, that's about it. So it becomes a lot easier. Your strength training starts connecting yourself to a different level altogether. Any sport, repetitive things like running, cycling, swimming, I would rate them higher with it, but strength training at the same time, whether high intensity, low intensity, same stuff again, right? So yeah, that's about it from me. These sessions do become more fun when they're interactive, or when questions are there. So if you have any questions, I'll hang around. I'll just randomly say a few things, maybe repeat a few things. Um, like Ladakh, I'll just repeat that. And Pankaj, thanks, understand, will follow. Feeling is more important. Any day, Pankaj, feeling is far more important. A classic example is trying to get a running shoe. Don't worry too much about the signs of the running shoe. If the shoe does not feel right, Kipchoge could be the guy wearing it, selling it. It doesn't really matter. If it doesn't feel right, it's not right. Okay? So feeling is the most important part. And I would run by breathing, actually, Pankaj, if I have to add one more thing there. Don't run according to your heart rate. Learn to run according to your breathing. So you learn to control your breathing. So basically, if you're breathing slowly, holding it on for a second or two and breathing out, you're doing pretty well. All right. And then when you're running, that oxygen that goes in with your breath in it jumps on to the bloodstream, to the blood, is taken to the heart, okay, and then is then taken to the rest of the body. And that's efficient breathing, basically, right? Now, based on that, now if you were to say what gears are there according to your breathing pace, right? So a slow, easy run is when you can talk in long sentences, all right? So it can be like a 20, 30 word sentence or multiple sentences. So it's a long conversation that you can be having with someone, is your long, easy pace. If you're doing a tempo run, so if you're running a little faster for shorter duration than your long run, that is when your breathing should be about 10, 15 words or lesser. All right. And you're getting breathless by that much. So you become more attuned to your body rather than just a slave to the number on the watch. All right. Then is about, say, intervals. Intervals would be when you run, you're breathless in 2, 3, 4 seconds, 2, 3, 4 words, and you're breathless, you can't talk more, right? Now that is becoming your breathing pace for an interval training that is there. To me, this matters a lot more. An interval, what is the basic thing? The whole idea is if you're doing 6 repeats, 6 intervals, your last interval is what you decide on and what time you want to be doing. You work backwards, you start slower than you would have done otherwise. And if you can't repeat it twice or thrice, I mean, what are you doing? You were supposed to do 6 repetitions. So the sixth becomes most important, and we're working backwards. You work a little lesser for the first repetition, a little harder for the second, and a little harder the third. And maybe it'll take you 3, 4 times, 3, 4 weeks to figure that out or more. And it's totally fine. That's the whole idea. Learn to fail. And from failure, learn to become better. Right? So, yeah, that's about running according to your breathing. I'll repeat about Ladakh. Don't rush, please. If you're going to Ladakh, 10 days at least, how we can train in Delhi for Ladakh. Thanks, Mr. Singh. So, since I'm on Ladakh already, the topic Ladakh. Um, if you are training for Ladakh Marathon, all right. Now, to give you a little context, one Harshit, who was here before me, has attempted Ladakh La Ultra twice. All right, so he ran 55 kilometers in 2019, and he finished. And in 2022, he attempted 111 and got to 60 some kilometers. All right, so the guy knows Ladakh pretty well, and he's been there before. So that was him. But if you're going from Delhi or any plain area uh, to Ladakh, the very basic thing is you can't do much for the distances going to Ladakh. You have to fix your distances here, sitting in Delhi or Bombay or Pune or wherever, Hyderabad. Make Cover those distances, all right? Uh, do that training. So that's one part, and that's not the question here. I'll not even address that right now. The question is about low altitude, then going to high altitude. What you can't address enough sitting in Delhi is the high altitude. What you can address is the distance. Okay. So hence you need to go to Ladakh sooner than Ladakh Marathon people want you there. Okay. I, as a rule, had people, they had to land up in Ladakh. Had been organizing La Ultra since 2010, and we've had distances of 555, 333, 222, 111, 55, 33, 22, 11 as well. So I would ask people to land there 11, 12 days before. Okay. Acclimatize. First day, you might be shocked, surprised. Even a flight of stairs, halfway through, you'll be breathless. Okay. And you'll gradually get better as you spend time there. Okay. Don't panic with it. But again, as Harshit was saying, some people do experience a bit more high altitude sickness than others. Just don't panic. Panic is the worst thing to be doing, right? So that's really the thing. And do work with your hydration, work with your nutrition very well. So figure that part out. Do your strength training for your Ladakh marathon. So those are very quick tips that are there for Ladakh. Uh, Again, the tip is it can get very hot and very cold in the same day, like 2 hours, 3 hours. So please cater to both, right? Take your sunglasses, please. Never expose your hands and your legs to sun rays because it's a high altitude. Radiation is a lot higher. And yeah, cater to snowstorms, rain, hot, cold. It can be very, very hot as well there. Um, September is when Ladakh Marathon happens. Temperatures can be as low as, I would say, like a -10 maybe during your run, or maybe -4 or 5, depending, are you doing the ultra or the marathon. So, yeah. Any other questions? And I can just again once more talk about heat. Um, Please pour water over your head, pre cool yourself, run under shade if you can. Try to get your run done before it's very sunny. Don't try to be a stud out there. Be safe, right? And what sort of strength training will help? RB asks. Floor is totally fine. So floor based body weight exercises are totally fine. Work with them. If you can get to the gym, it's a great idea. So strength training, whole body, right? The mistake that runners make is they either only do the legs or they don't do the legs. So please do that 2 to 3 times a week, please. I like working till failure for events like this. All right. So properly doing high intensity training is a good idea. And Pankaj, thanks. Why I feel lethargic after big exercise, like I did 70 kilometer cycling today. Had after big exercise, like had good food later, but later remained lethargic throughout day. So one big thing, Pankaj, is proteins. Second is during the activity itself. If during the activity, if you're not having hydration and energy intake enough, you're in trouble. So please take care of that. Okay. Otherwise, not much is going your way. Recover well. So during your activity, have plain water and electrolytes repeatedly, okay, alternating, and don't have it in gallons, have it in small sips. Food energy needs to be taken while you're cycling or running, and food later. As soon as you're done, you need to be definitely be taking protein right after the activity as well. That's the building block to feel more recovered. And yeah, the food matters, of course. Cut down on your carbs, by the way. All right. So increase more fats. Very, very important. And so if you've taken 2 to 3 hours, 4 hours for the 70K, yeah, you need to be addressing all of this. All right. Cool. All right, then. It's been 37 minutes. Unless there's any other question, we can wrap up. Just one thing again, when you're running in the heat, run under shade as much as you can, please. Right? And sunglasses, uh, caps, very important. Change the t-shirt after you're done wetting it and all that after the run. All right. And that's it. Okay, guys. So I'll catch up with you chaps or and whoever else next Sunday, 8 p.m. We'll figure out a couple of topics. If you have any topics in mind, please message here or wherever you got to hear of this talk. Yes. Lokhandeji, I joined late. Too bad, too bad. We're done with the session. And Pankaj mentioned, you mentioned a WhatsApp group. I will be starting a WhatsApp group. So if you can actually leave a message here or message me directly, I will add whoever is there. I'll start out making a group for all of this because we will be doing something for a Couch to 5 and other programs will be there as well. So idea is let's have a community of such conversations, more mindful people who are keen to know and people who are happy to mentor other people. So a community which is you know more aware and want to know more about things, more science and stuff like that. So yes, I'll create that, but message me directly, please, and we'll figure. Okay. Telegram is what I was thinking about. So Telegram is what we are planning on rather than a WhatsApp group. Okay. All right, folks. It's been 40 minutes, and we shall catch up next Sunday, 8 p.m. See you guys. Over and out.